Power bill through the roof? At 320 Solar, that power bill will be no more. In fact, about 90% of our customers report lower solar payments than with electricity. That's more power in your pocket. 320 Solar. Power up. Well, even after some 24 hours, I really don't know what to say about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and that loss last night to the Los Angeles Rams. I can say this. The Buccaneers are 7-4 on the season, and the Buccaneers are still very much in the playoff hunt. Right now, they own the number 6 playoff spot in the NFC. That's number 6 out of 7 teams. But now, with 5 games left in the regular season and staring at teams like the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs coming up this Sunday, Atlanta twice, Minnesota, Detroit. Can they do enough with those final games in order to make the NFL playoffs? That is the question as we approach holiday week and Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving week, everybody. With that, welcome to the Al Keck Show, brought to you by the Deck Bar and Grill. No doubt this has become the best place around to really watch any kind of a sporting event. You head out to the Deck at Isla del Sol. There are TVs galore, big screens all over the place, and you're also talking about a beautiful venue right on the water, great food, incredible drink. You have it all right there for you at the Deck Bar and Grill, Isla del Sol. Cedric Robinson is our guy. He is the manager, and he has built really one of the great places in the entire Tampa Bay area to watch sports, the Deck Bar and Grill. And we are so happy to have the Deck as our major sponsor right here on the Al Keck Show. All right, now you really have to kind of walk a fine line here when you talk about this game for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because let's remember, we haven't had that many 7-4 seasons to really talk about. We haven't had that many seasons where going into the season, the Buccaneers were in the conversation about going to a Super Bowl. And we all know what we expected from this team. And we all know the reason why we expected what we did from this team. It's all about Tom Brady. And when Tom Brady has a game like he did last night, and when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers kind of struggle offensively, like they did last night. And it's now week number 11, and it wasn't that long ago that they got hammered by the Saints. You're really starting to have some questions about this football team and where this football team is. So we're going to do something a little bit different tonight. I want to bring in Kyle Keck from Chicago, and we're going to talk about all aspects of this game and really have some fun regarding this game and trying to get, I guess we're going to try to get our pound of flesh on the Buccaneers after this game. After all, it was last night. So I'm sure you all have this very much in your mind. And Kyle Keck, have you been able to recover from that mess of a game last night, even though it was only 3 points, but with the way the Buccaneers played, especially offensively, that was not the type of game I expected to see. How about you?
My goodness, if it wasn't Thanksgiving week and if I didn't already try to have my heart in the right place to be thankful for things outside of Buccaneer football, it would be tough to be over it at this point. Last night was just tough to watch there at the end when you thought that they were going to make the run back to get this thing tied up, and it just was old Buccaneer football. So tough one to see, but But glad we're over it. We're on to the next one. On to Kansas City.
On to Kansas City and the defending Super Bowl champs. Again, this is one of those yardstick games in that we're going to see just how good or how bad the Buccaneers are. And quite honestly, over the last few weeks, we've seen more of the how bad this football team is and how much they can struggle, especially offensively. And I think as we start things off, here's hoping, number one, that they get Ali Marpet back. He is their number one offensive lineman. And it's become extremely obvious over these last few weeks how much he means to this football team. He did not play against the Saints, and we saw what happened there. He did not play against in the next game against the Panthers, and he did not play against the Rams last night. And even though you take Ryan Jensen from center, move him over to left guard, and you bring in a new center in Shipley, I mean, they did all right. But it's obvious how much Marpet means to this football team, specifically this offensive line, because he's kind of the anchor of this offensive line. And he's also the guy that will help the guy next to him, who is Donovan Smith, who clearly simply is not an effective left tackle these days in the National Football League. He continues to need help on a regular basis. Yesterday or last night, he injured his ankle very early on, so he was dealing with that as well. But there was still an awful lot of pressure that Tom Brady had to put up with, and Tom Brady from there simply did not play well. It wasn't just because of pressure, but he simply did not play the type of football that we expect from Tom Brady. So we're going to do something a little different tonight. Kyle and I decided what we should do is come up with some different ideas to kind of get that pound of flesh that we need to get from this Buccaneer football team. And we're going to do start off with a thing called hashtags. So come up with a hashtag. I've come up with some. Kyle, you've come up with some. Peter Blake back in the studio. We'll go to you. You come up with a hashtag or a couple, whatever you have. And also make sure that, some of the web heads, if you guys have an idea on coming up with hashtags, do that, and we'll read them on the air, and we'll just see what we have with this. All right. Hashtag number one. Here's my hashtag. The cup runneth over. Last night, there was no doubt about it that Cooper Kupp was the best player on the field, bar none. What did he have? 11 catches, 145 yards. By the way, 6 of those 11 catches went for first downs. That young Buccaneer secondary could not cover him. The Buccaneers did not have an answer for him. And even though the Buccaneers did slow down the Rams in the second half, when the Rams had to make a drive and when they had to make a play, they would go to Cooper Kupp, either that or Robert Woods. Both those guys went over 100 yards. But specifically, to me, Cooper Kupp, who is not the biggest guy in the world, who's not the fastest guy in the world, he had a field day against that young Buccaneers secondary, and that young Buccaneers secondary couldn't do a thing to stop him. So Cooper Kupp, the cup runneth over. Hashtag number one. Kyle Keck, let's have your hashtag.
My first hashtag is hashtag 8-finger discount. And I'm talking about JPP. The 8-finger wonder. My man has 2 interceptions in the last 2 games. This game, he had more catches than Ronald Jones Jr. I don't know if that's saying much at this point. He did tie Leonard Fournette in catches against the Rams. Again, not really saying too much. But JPP has been the MVP so far in these last couple of games for this defense and for this team as a whole. It's been evident that Jason Pierre-Paul has been the best player on this Buccaneers team as a whole, offense and defense. He's been the spark plug. He has started back up exactly where he left off last year with the type of energy that he's brought to this team. And he single-handedly made plays last night at crucial points, whether it be, there was a play where Malcolm Brown on a crucial third down almost got himself on a 3rd and long after a holding penalty back when they were backed up in their own red zone. Almost got a first down on a long 3rd down play. And JPP came all the way from the line of scrimmage and hustled his butt off to go make that tackle. Obviously, he had the interception. He had 2 passes deflected. So JPP, the 8-finger wonder, hashtag 8-finger discount.
I love that. 8-finger discount. Okay, here's my hashtag. The GOAT. No, excuse me. I'm going to use this one first. Hashtag be like Mike. Mike Evans. Mike Evans made that touchdown catch, which I believe is one of the best touchdowns of the year, not just for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but the entire National Football League. He carried practically the entire secondary for the LA Rams. He carried them some 10 yards into the end zone, and he was just determined. He was determined not to be slowed down and not to be stopped, and he was going to score a touchdown. Now, many times when you have a play like that and you have a player that makes an effort like that and scores a touchdown like that, it gets your entire sideline cranked up and ready to go. And that didn't happen to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Still, Mike Evans was, put together one of the great efforts, I think, of the season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on that touchdown catch. And so it's really too bad that the rest of the Buccaneers didn't really catch on and take advantage of that from there, because they need to be they need to be like Mike. Be like Mike. Kyle?
I like that. I mean, that touchdown was impressive. He was an absolute grown-ass man on that touchdown. That was fun to watch. All right, my second hashtag, I've got hashtag forgive and Fournette. Okay, now hang on with me here. I know we wanted to bash Leonard Fournette last night on those two crucial drops. And believe me, I was the first one to do it. The 2 that he had were just, they were stupid drops. But those were his only 2 drops that he's had this entire season. There have been plenty of plays where he's been targeted, where, Brady had to throw at his feet when, he was under pressure just to get rid of it. To avoid a potential, interception or loss of yards. But there's also been plenty of times where Fournette has had the hands in the backfield that we've needed. He's had great hands throughout his entire career, as having as high of a completion percentage and catch rate as 85%. Just 2 years ago, last year, he was at 75% for a running back. That's pretty solid with a lot of volume. So forgive Fournette. Fournette also on that, before the Godwin touchdown that we saw, they went to him a good 4 times in a row, and he got chunk yardage when we needed it badly. So, I know we want to bash running backs for being so terrible and butterfingers that they are, but we got to forgive and Fournette going into this coming week.
All right. My third hashtag, the GOAT is missing the boat. Okay. It is very popular today to climb all over Tom Brady and criticize his performance and talk about how he did not play well. 2 interceptions last night, and they were 2 horrible interceptions, poorly thrown, nowhere near the receiver, and simply was not the type of performance that we expect from Tom Brady. His numbers, 26 of 48 for 216 yards, 2 touchdowns, and again, those 2 horrible interceptions. Now, I'm not going to say that Tom Brady is nowhere near the Tom Brady that had won all those Super Bowls in New England. That is obvious, but he's not as bad as most people think. And I think the biggest problem with this Tom Brady situation is that the Buccaneers, and one of their biggest criticisms against this team, is the fact that they really don't have an identity. We don't know. Do they, like last year, no risk it, no biscuit? Are they a team that can pound the football and run the football? Are they a team that has great balance? What is the identity with this team offensively? And I think it's pretty obvious that the identity of this football team right now offensively is that they're expecting Tom Brady to be the Tom Brady that won the Super Bowls. And they're expecting Tom Brady, no matter what happens earlier in the game, to, at the end of the game, pull it out for them, because he's Tom Brady, the greatest of all time and the GOAT. And what we're finding out now is that Tom Brady is a human. Tom Brady is 43 years old. And while he has put up some very impressive numbers for this football team, when you consider that he is 45 years old or 43 years old, and you put all of it into perspective, I think he's got 25 touchdown passes and 9 interceptions around in there. I mean, close to 3,000 yards. That's still an impressive season. But when he is under pressure, the way that he has been under pressure, and he's missing Ali Marpet, because Ali Marpet cannot help Donovan Smith as much as the Buccaneers need because he's out. The pressure, he feels it. It's obvious now that Brady just doesn't look comfortable. And even though the Buccaneers are 7-4, it's a 7-4 that a lot of people are frustrated with. A lot of people are asking questions about. And now you're starting to wonder, can this football team even make the playoffs, let alone not try to catch the Saints and win the NFC South, which is impossible at best at this point, but get that number one wild card spot, so that if you get that number one wild card spot, then you get to play the NFC East team in the playoffs in that opening round. And chances are that'll be a team with a losing record. And if you can get that matchup, you can win that game. And then all of a sudden, now you're moving on in the playoffs, and who knows what can happen from there. But we need more from Tom Brady. So that's why my hashtag is the GOAT is missing the boats. Kyle.
My final hashtag, it's similar to yours. We're going to stick on this Michael Jordan theme here. Hashtag Air Godwin. That touchdown that Godwin had, late to put us, close in contention, where he just about stretched over the pylon there. It was a real life version of Michael Jordan in Space Jam, where he had to stretch from half court and all the way with the Looney Tunes to drop it in at the buzzer. I mean, that was as impressive as a touchdown I've seen him score, and one of the more impressive touchdowns I've seen all season, especially from a wide receiver. And it's evident that Godwin is the guy that Brady so heavily relies on him to get going. Once Godwin gets going, then this offense is able to start get going. I feel like this team, this offense specifically, only goes as far as Godwin is able to get them when they're able to get him in a rhythm. And we saw it in glimpses on a couple of drives last night when he got going. You hit him on a slant, he gets a couple chunk yardage. You hit him on a quick screen. It seemed like any time they needed like reliable yardage, they threw to Godwin for a quick screen. It took one out of McVay's playbook. And I feel like this is a trend that we need to see more of with this Tampa Bay offense, because the creativity is so just non-existent with this offense. These deep shots and low percentage throws are really hurting this team. But Air Godwin, when he gets going across the middle of the field, the short yardage stuff, that is what this team needs to sustain drives and move forward. So hashtag Air Godwin, giving his best Space Jam impersonation of the GOAT, the true GOAT, Michael Jordan.
All right, some hashtags. Peter Blake.
Yes.
You're back in the palatial Peter Blake studios. Do you have a hashtag that you would like to add?
Absolutely. How about balance for Brady? Because obviously this offense forgot about that. They go for over 200 yards of rushing. Last night, 48 passes to 18 runs. Not going to get it done, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, especially versus a great Rams defense. How about forget about Jones? By the way, guys, he's the third leading rusher in the NFL. You forgot about him totally. Johnny Dean's being funny here. He said, victim of volume for Fournette. I'm not giving Fournette the ball with all the drop passes he had, yet you forget about your lead back and not ready for prime time. 1-3 this year in prime time football games for the Bucs. You would think with all the experience and all the leaders on this team that they would be better. And once again, Al and Kyle, they come out flat defensively. I don't know what to say. Oh, here's another one. Stop throwing deep. How about that? Intermediate and short passes are your best friend, especially when it comes to Brady. Brady had a bad game last night. In fact, only completing 54% completion percentage, barely even did that. And every time he's thrown deep, he's been off. He missed Antonio Brown. He missed so many situations. So those are my hashtags. But the main one would be balance for Brady. Write it down, guys.
All right. Anything from the webheads? Do they have anything to say? Do they have any hashtags?
Oh, they do. Well, we'll go out to the comments here. Jonathan Lindsay says a loss for words. Christopher Cole, just get into the playoffs and anything can happen. Johnny Dean, Kyle, and Al Keck, nice combo platter there. We need Marpet back. Johnny Dean says need Vea back. That was another thing. No consistent pass rush. I mean, look, Jared Goff could have stood back there last night, had a picnic, had, a 4-course, 5-course meal. He could have had Thanksgiving dinner back there last night. He had so much time. So no pressure from the defense consistently, especially from JPP, maybe JPP, but not Shaq Barrett. Just get in. Says Christopher Kupp was running over the linebackers. Also, Bruce Arians with the E, I believe.
Bruce Arians.
Fournette, a victim of volume. Johnny Dean messing with me tonight. Don't mess with me, Johnny Dean. They aren't expecting, but they are relying on TB to perform. Christopher Cole says his body may not be getting old, but his mind could be. And then Ali Keck says hashtag Bucs win when God wins. And that's a good one. And then also another hashtag Gronk psych. There you go.
All right, Peter Blake. Peter, is that Rojo in the background making noise?
No, that is actually, well, you know what? He probably should be making noise. And again, I go back to this, the victim of volume, third leading rusher in the NFL, and you completely forget about him. But actually, that is my dog in the background who seems like he wants to get in on this show. He's disappointed about the Bucs' performance last night, especially when it had to do with the running game. So I guess I've got to take him out after this show. Back to you.
Well, maybe, I'm sure he has a hashtag, and his hashtag may be, I can't watch this shiitake mushrooms any longer, after last night. That was on prime time, please. And I'm begging the networks, please, never put this team on at night ever again.
Yes.
Because it is painful to watch this football team. And I was looking forward to this game all week long. I really wanted to see this game. And what a mess of a night with that performance and losing to the Rams. All right. Now, we're going to take something of a break from pounding the Buccaneers for a little bit. I've done a bunch of interviews during my time in doing this show. And I've really tried to bring you different people. I want to bring you people that you know. I want to bring you names. I want to bring you people that know football. I want to bring you people that really understand the Buccaneers and understand all this, understand the community. That's very important to me, that I inform and entertain you with really good interviews. I'm not going to bring you newspaper reporters. I'm not going to bring you other bloggers. I'm going to give you guys that everyone in the community knows. And with that, this is definitely one of my favorite interviews again. And this is Bubba the Love Sponge. This is a repeat from what we had a couple of months ago. But Bubba, to me, knows this area, understands this area. He's had ups, he's had downs, and he has a fascinating story. So please sit back and enjoy Bubba the Love Sponge. Looking back on your career, you have had the highest of highs. You've had the lowest of lows. The big difference is everyone's been able to see both, and you involved in both. Looking back on things, did you ever expect to be where you are and where your career took you?
No, Al, I probably should have saved a lot more money. I probably should have been an ounce of a little less swagger. I'm guilty of pissing off some very influential people in this city, the Mark Obers and stuff like that, being the people's hammer and being this boastful. bragging kind of guy. And what a lot of people don't realize is most of that was show business. You know, you get behind the mic and you have, you know, you're on Channel 10 and you and Reg really just couldn't be yourself. You know, you had to report to sports, and, you know, you couldn't be like, hey, it's Al Keck and I'm going to the Dollhouse tonight, or, you know, me and Reg, or whatever you did in life. But I could, and I had a lot of fun doing it, but I pissed off a lot of people, you know, along the way. And I've been part of some stupid scandals, and, you know, it's just, I'm not proud of a lot of what I've done, but I am proud of some things I've been able to accomplish. I've lived a good life. I've made a lot of money. I didn't save much of it, but I'm starting to have a little bit of a resurgence. Getting kind of blackballed from regular radio made me have to reinvent myself digitally. And, you know, a lot of these radio guys don't realize that just terrestrial radio over AM or FM, the days of big Ron and Ron or Bubba the Love Sponge contracts are over. And you have to grind and have a digital footprint, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Twitch, you have to be able to monetize and distribute your content over something other than terrestrial radio. And it's made me do that. And, you know, we're the number one. Well, you were in one Friday, and I think, you know, we've been very blessed on Twitch. We were the first in, and we're the biggest in the world on Twitch, radio show wise. And that's what pays the bills. So I don't know that I would have done that had I, you know, still had the $1 million deal base contract and stuff like that.
Well, Bubba, here's the thing. I've known you over the years, and everyone that I meet that meets you and gets to know you all has glowing things to say about you. So a lot of the stuff that you say you were involved in is, like you said, shtick. I mean, you had to do this to put that persona out there. So that's got to make you feel good.
The on-air stuff was shtick. And then, you know, obviously I've gotten caught up in some stupid stuff in my life, and been part of a sex tape scandal that really a lot of people don't know what really went down there. And I just signed a pretty large documentary called Video Killed the Radio Star. That we start shooting in 4 weeks. And, you know, the documentary business doesn't have a lot of money, but it tells your story. And, you know, the Hogan sex tape scandal, everybody thinks that, you know, I let my best friend have sex with my wife, which I did, but I didn't distribute it. I wasn't trying to, it wasn't meant to be out. It was amongst us three consenting adults. Obviously, my moral compass has changed tremendously since I used to run that hard. But, you know, there's probably a lot of other media people or famous athletes that either had an open relationship or were part of that community that didn't get caught or get caught up into a scandal like I did. And the other side of the story, the people that stole this tape, the people that distributed this, the people that gained from it, that will be told, and people can form their own opinion about it. At least they'll know the other side of the story, because the only side of the story that's been told is that there was a Hogan sex tape and it was a media. It was the First Amendment right of Gawker to be able to publish it because it was a newsworthy story. Well, it wasn't a newsworthy story. It was a private matter that happened in my bedroom that was never intended for anybody to know had this particular tape not been stolen. That side of the story has not been told, because it's not. When I get vindicated or I look like I may not be the asshole that people think I am, then that's not a sexy story. Nobody no news media in Tampa will tell that side of the story. So I have a documentary that's going to, because it's not cool to make me look like a victim, because I'm the bad guy. And you're right. When people get to know me as a person, they can maybe set aside the show shtick a little bit and realize that I'm just a regular dude that talks a lot of crap, and got myself caught up in some stuff that I'm not proud of.
Well, Bubba, you know, as a football fan and being around sports all my life, I'm a lot of X's and O's. So as a broadcaster, I watch and listen to you and look at the technical stuff. and I can honestly say, is that you can't have the career that you have had and have without being technically superior to anyone out there. So as a broadcaster, I love watching you and listening to you because technically you're incredible.
Well, thank you. Thank you. One of the things that I was able to do when I was really rolling hard is to build my own facility. So the one thing that us broadcasters sometimes get hemmed up on is when we lose our job, we don't have necessarily any infrastructure that we've built to be able to create content. Today it's a lot different with Zoom, and you don't necessarily need the bells and whistles, but I was able to build a place over by the airport, and that's the one saving grace. The one thing that I did right was I built my own studios. And Howard has a lot. I owe a lot to Howard when
Howard
he stepped
Stern.
up when he stepped up in 2006 and allowed me to be on his network for 6 years. So it's just, you probably know this as well. And speaking in this little fishbowl of Tampa, Florida, that we call, this town is so two-faced and so hypocritical, and the media is so fake. And once you get sent out to pasture and you're the bad guy, then they don't want anything to do with you. Reggie is victim of that just recently with what Reggie's gone through. And it's just it's this town is as corrupt of a town as New Orleans or Miami or anything. And I pissed off the wrong people, but I'm not giving up. And I got great people like you and BL and Reggie, that us old schoolers, so to speak, that stick together. And more importantly, they can't kill me. These broadcasters that don't want me on the air anymore, they can't kill me. They want me to be gone, but I still reinvent myself. It's like, remember when we were in science class, Al, and you'd take what were those things that you'd cut in half like a worm, and then it would grow like an amoeba? I don't even know what the hell it was.
Yeah.
You were smarter than me, Al. You probably been paid. Remember you cut it off and then it would cut in half and it would start living again or something like that?
Right.
So that's kind of like what I am, I guess.
So Bubba has become the amoeba.
I'm the amoeba. Yeah, I'm the amoeba.
I love Bubba. Bubba, the love sponge, a fascinating guy. And so thank him for taking the time to join us. And he's very open about his life and about his career. And he's a fun guy to talk to. All right, let's try another new feature here. We're going to award game balls. Kyle and I, in football, they award game balls in the locker room right after the game to the players that truly made a difference. And so we're going to award our game balls off this game. So my game ball goes to Mike Evans because of that touchdown. That is easily one of the top touchdowns of the year in the National Football League. And again, you were hoping that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the rest of the team over on the sideline, would catch that emotion and kind of bring that back out to the field, but they really failed to do that. But when you look at Mike Evans, so far this season, he does have the 9 touchdown catches, which is among the leaders in the National Football League, but he only has just over 500 yards. And remember, he has an opportunity to add to his NFL record, which he owns with Randy Moss, and starting his first years in the National Football League, I believe it's 6 consecutive years of 1,000-yard seasons. Right now, he has only just over 500 yards, so he's not really on pace to hit those 1,000 yards. He has got to have some huge games here in this final 5 games of the season. But I will say this, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers desperately need a Mike Evans type of game like he's had in every year except for this year, where not just touchdowns, but you're talking, double-digit catches for, 150 and close to 200 yards. Those are games we've come to expect from Mike Evans, but we haven't seen it this year. And so many different reasons go into that. But down near the goal line, he is still one of the biggest targets around the National Football League. So Kyle Keck, my game ball goes to Mike Evans.
Deservedly so. That man has been due for a big game, and he provided exactly what the Bucs needed last night against a tough matchup of Jalen Ramsey. I mean, he made Jalen Ramsey look bad a couple of times, which a lot of people thought it'd be flip-flops. My game ball goes to none other than Jason Pierre-Paul. I am riding the Jason Pierre-Paul train on this game. I am high on the JPP train right now. Pierre-Paul, 6 total tackles, 4 of them were unassisted. And he had the 1 interception at a crucial point. And that interception was impressive, too. I mean, he read it perfectly. He followed the offensive lineman to where the lineman was taking him. He watched Jared Goff just stare down the running back and just slid right in and picked it off. So JPP, and the 2 passes deflected. And honestly, I know I'm going to the whole finger thing here with the 8 fingers. But had he had the other 2 fingers, there were a couple plays where Goff threw a screen right over top of his hand where he might have gotten that pointer finger on there. But it's funny. JPP tweeted, I think it was last week before last week's game against Carolina. He said, "Man, I wonder what life would look like for me if I actually had all 10 of my fingers." So it's funny to see him have a good sense of humor about things. But JPP gets my game ball. And honestly, with the way he's playing, he'll probably get it next week too.
And when you think about what JPP has gone through, again, he lost those fingers because of a fireworks accident on his hand, and then he comes out, plays well. The Bucs still trade for him, and remember, he played for the USF Bulls, had a great collegiate career here for USF. Then he comes here, and then during the offseason, he's in a car accident and breaks his neck, and he comes back from a broken neck. And the minute he rejoined the Buccaneers, which was about halfway through last season, the Buccaneers took off. And it was his energy. It was his moxie. It was his simple caring that brought this team and pulled this team together and made this team mature and, turn into a team to where the Buccaneers thought, hey, if we get Tom Brady here, maybe Tom Brady with this team could be enough to get us over the hump and really make us a contender. So he's
the Haitian sensation. He's been killing it this year. We called it this year. One of our first would you rathers that we had this year. I asked you, or it wasn't so much a would you rather, but more of a prediction. Who will lead the Buccaneers in sacks this year, JPP or Shaq Barrett? And it's JPP right now. He's got 7.5, and he's 8th in the league in sacks right now. I mean, Shaq isn't even close. He's not even sniffed that. He's been incredible, and it's so clear he's the heart and soul of this defense. I mean, the defense just rides wherever he goes. So hopefully he can keep it going. Hopefully he can stay healthy. And like you mentioned, it's awesome to see him have the attitude that he's had with all the adversity he's been through injury-wise, and just freak injuries too. So awesome to see him lead this defense. And it's always fun to see him smile too with all the diamonds in his mouth. I mean, my goodness. They had another funny the Buccaneers had a funny question for their team. They asked, who's the best trash talker on the team? And Alex Kappa said it's JPP because he just really gets going. But he said it's mainly because he's extra scary when he's getting going, because when he's really getting going, you have no idea what he's saying.
Or no idea what he's going to do as
right.
well. All right. Now, from game balls, you've got to go the other way. From the best players who made a difference, you have to come up with people who didn't make a difference, people who just really didn't have a good game. So we're going to call those, with lack of better things, smelly balls. So from game balls, we're going to go to smelly balls. And my smelly ball goes to Byron Leftwich, because I just didn't see any direction and haven't seen any direction at times from this Buccaneer offense. Now, granted, it doesn't matter what play you call when you have troubles like the left side of the Buccaneer offensive line, specifically Donovan Smith has had throughout this season. So it's kind of tough to, call that out. But let's face it, after the opening drive of the entire season against New Orleans, I can't think of another drive this season for this Tampa Bay offense. Now, that very first drive, it was very obvious that they started planning this the second that they signed Tom Brady, because it was a thing of beauty the way they went right down the field against the Saints, hitting different targets, and you could really see how they were thinking about using Tom Brady. But since then, it's been extremely hit or miss, extremely inconsistent. And so I really don't know what that Buccaneer offense was trying to do, last night. I really don't know what that Buccaneer offense was trying to do against the Saints the second time around. So to me, the smelly balls goes to Byron Leftwich. The Buccaneers somehow, some way, have to get something going offensively. And it's up to Byron Leftwich, who has an opportunity to have all these weapons. Let's figure out a way to use all these weapons and make this offense look a whole lot better than it has against good defenses so far this season.
Yeah, I want to go off that too. I mean, the whole Arians no risk it, no biscuit thing, it's just not working this year. Like, I know that's his mantra, but it just doesn't work. There's no continuity with this offense. There's no creativity. Like you mentioned before, this offense doesn't really have an identity. Dan Orlovsky of ESPN, who formerly played for the Buccaneers, spent a lot of time as a backup quarterback in the NFL. He on ESPN was saying how he's disgusted watching the Bucs offense because of the lack of creativity, but just because they just don't have anything going for them. Like the Byron Leftwich and Bruce Arians style of offense is a style of offense that is so dated from what Orlovsky was saying. They have not. You look at what McVay is doing and the way he utilizes his weapons. The way he uses Robert Woods is the way that we should be using Antonio Brown. The way that they use Cooper Kupp is the way that we should be using Chris Godwin, finding him on shorter passes and letting him get some yards after the catch. So, I mean, this is if I didn't pick if I didn't pick who I picked for my smelly balls, Byron Leftwich was going to be my pick. But sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it.
My smelly balls pick is none other than Tom Brady, and it hurts to say it. It really does. He's the best quarterback to ever play in the NFL, and it really hurts to say he's got smelly balls, but he does, and he did last night. And actually, my wife, she should be the one that's on the show because she said she's so funny. She said it wasn't the smelly balls; he had deflated balls. Is what she said. So your daughter-in-law. So she's hilarious. But I mean, Brady, it was so bad last night. I mean, you throw the ball 48 times and you can only amount for 216 yards. He did have the 2 touchdowns, which I'd credit Mike Evans and Chris Godwin more than Brady on those touchdowns. And then the 2 interceptions he had were just asinine. I mean, I thought that we were past that when we got rid of Jameis. I mean, those were Jameis-esque interceptions, just blatant, just throw it, no one even near him, and just picked off out of nowhere. And I've got some other stats for Brady that's staggering this year in the 4 losses. He has 5 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and only a QB rating of 66% in those 4 losses this season. Last season with the Patriots and their 4 losses, again, they only had 4 losses in the regular season last year. He had 7 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. And it really stinks because these 4 losses, all of them were primetime games. I mean, the first one against the Saints wasn't technically primetime, but it was nationally televised. And then the Bears game, he wasn't very good. The other Saints game, nobody was good. He wasn't very good. And then you look at the last couple games that we lost. I mean, it's staggering. It's frightening. And this is not what you want to see of Tom Brady. And this is not what you expect of Tom Brady in primetime. And again, there's a lot of things that go into it on the Buccaneers offense and the scheming and the coaching and some of the games on the defense too. But we need to see more of Brady in these tough matchups, and especially this week against the defending champions, the Kansas City Chiefs, that I don't think the Buccaneers match up well with at all.
All right. We're going to talk about that here in just a second, but it's the main point I want to make about Brady and about this offense is the fact that when they play a tough defense or when they play a high caliber defense, this Buccaneer offense really can't get the job done. And those are the type of offenses, if they make the playoffs, those are the type of defenses, rather, those are the defenses you're going to face in the playoffs. So they've got to figure this out. And I do believe that getting Ali Marpet back will do a lot as far as that offensive line is concerned and trying to make Tom feel comfortable. But this is what you're going to see in the playoffs. And so we want to see what the Buccaneers can do and make a difference against a good defense, against a good team. Because really, to me, when you look at the schedule so far, and even though they have 7 wins in 11 games, and we haven't had that many times over the years to where at this point in the season, heading into, week 12 or whatever it is, after week 11, to be able to say, hey, this football team is 7-4. We haven't seen that many 7-4s over the years, but we expect more from Tom Brady because he is the greatest of all time. All right. From game balls to smelly balls to now crystal balls. How will they do against Kansas City? And Kyle, you mentioned it briefly. You don't like this matchup against Kansas City.
I don't like this matchup whatsoever. Defensively. Offensively, I think we match up fairly well as long as the offensive line can hold up. This Chiefs defense they're sneaky good, but they're not overwhelmingly good. Okay, we've seen now the Buccaneers have the fortune of being able to watch the most recent game tape of this past week where the Chiefs almost fell to the Raiders again. So they do have, it's great for them that they have recent tape and film to watch on how the Raiders were able to really stymie Kansas City for most of that game. But, we just watched Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp catch over 20 balls combined, go for over 200 yards combined, and just absolutely torch us. And you think that Tyreek Hill and Mecole Hardman and Demarcus Robinson and Sammy Watkins and Travis Kelce and even, the running backs, Le'Veon Bell and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, aren't kind of licking their chops a little bit, especially when Jamel Dean is most likely going to be out with a concussion. So you're already going to be short on your depth of defensive backs if Dean can't go. Now, I do say that where I'm not the biggest Dean fan. I don't think that we're going to be missing that much, but that's a conversation for another time. But this is our defense. If we don't get to Patrick Mahomes the way that we got after Aaron Rodgers, the way that we got after Derek Carr, we're going to be in for an absolute hellish game. And it's going to be all reliant on this offense clicking well and sustaining drives. And from what we've seen in our toughest matchups, we haven't been able to do that. And again, shortened week. You got a short week to get ready for it. And that doesn't help either. It helps that you're at home, but it doesn't help you're on a shortened week going up against the defending Super Bowl champions.
So your crystal ball says
my crystal ball
City in this game.
Yeah, my crystal ball says I like Kansas City. I do think that our offensive line with Marpet back is going to play a lot better. I got a hot take. I think if Marpet can get back, I think we do not give up a sack in this game. I think our offensive line will play strong enough. This Kansas City defense, they're better in the secondary than they are up front. They don't have a lot of sacks and QB pressures this year. They're towards the bottom third in the NFL on that stat. But I still like Kansas City to get the win. I just don't think that we're going to be able to get enough stops and put enough points on the board that we need to at crucial points. The way that this offense has been playing as of late, I think this will be a good running game for the Buccaneers to hopefully go on the big winning streak the last 4 games after this game that they'll need in order to get into the playoffs. Because remember, we talk 10-6 is the number that we need to get into the playoffs, but not so fast, my friend, because the Rams, we already lost to the Rams. We lost to the Bears. Those are 2 teams that could somehow end up 10-6 fighting for that wild card spot. If they do, we lose to them in the tiebreaker. So 11-5 secures us in the playoffs. So we need to, if we lose to the Chiefs, we got to win outright.
And they also have to play Minnesota. They also have to play Detroit. They have to play Atlanta twice. And one of the biggest tiebreakers in all this is a conference record. And right now, the Buccaneers are standing at 4-4 in this conference, and they can't afford many more losses like that in that particular tiebreaker. Now, as far as my crystal ball is concerned, one of the things that hopefully this Rams game taught them, and taught especially this young secondary, is that they have to make tackles. Can we please make a tackle? And this secondary was not very good at making tackles against Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. So what are you going to do against Tyreek Hill? What are you going to do against Travis Kelce? And you can go right on down the line with all the talent that this Kansas City team has. But, okay, something tells me, and maybe it's because it's holiday week. Maybe it's because it's Thanksgiving week. Maybe it's because that the law of averages says that with this much talent and Tom Brady hearing everything that he has heard, that somehow, some way, this team is going to put together a performance unlike any performance that they've put together this season outside of the last 3 quarters against Green Bay, that I think the law of averages says this team is going to do that this Sunday because they need it now more than they ever have. They would then go to 8-4 with what? 4 games left in the season, 2 against Atlanta, 1 against Minnesota, 1 against Detroit. And if they can go to 8-4 after this game, then I think they've got a good chance to get that number 1 wild card spot, which could be the best position in the entire playoffs, because they would then open up against the NFC East champion, which will be a team with a losing record, more than likely Philadelphia, or maybe the Giants, a rematch against the Giants, or who knows, anyone that can go on a 2-game winning streak in that division can easily win that division. But I say the Buccaneers are going to win this game against Kansas City. All right. How about that? How about that for a crystal ball?
I think you got too much sun with 320 solar. I think.
Oh, there you go. You know, this fan, it's gone straight to my head.
We're gonna need hopefully Giselle can just get Tommy everything he needs on Thanksgiving Day. I mean, let's get this guy. I think he's vegan, so let's get him all the plant-based goodies that this guy needs on Thanksgiving. Get him the cranberry sauce, everything, and let him serve it up to AB as well, because this guy is gonna need. He's going to need some extra juice on Sunday, and hopefully the old man's got it.
We had Steve DeBerg last week, and he told us, he says, listen, I'm going to the game. Christian Okoye is coming, the Nigerian Nightmare. He's coming down here for Thanksgiving, and we're going to go to the game. And he says, these are the 2 teams I've played for the Bucs longer than anyone else. I have my best years in Kansas City. He says, and I have to go to this game with Christian Okoye. I don't know how to tell him that I think the Bucs are going to win this game, but he believes the Bucs are going to win this game, and I believe the Buccaneers are going to win this game. And if they don't, I'm sure, my fine son, you will let me know. I am sure of that. And if you do, try not to be a victim of volume
boy,
Ronald Jones. Okay. All right.
Hopefully Ronald Jones can even make it onto the field. I mean, who knows? Maybe LaShawn McCoy's going to take his job. He'll finally revenge game. LaShawn McCoy. Maybe my crystal ball is telling me we're going to see a lot of LaShawn McCoy in this game.
All right. Well, it worked for Matt Gay, right? Matt Gay hit.
Oh my gosh.
The game.
How about that? We lose against his team. We lose to a Matt Gay field goal. That feels even better. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yes. That's why I say it can't go any worse for this franchise right now. And that's why they're going to go out and they're going to beat Kansas City. They're going to beat Kansas City. All right. Kyle Keck, thank you so very much. You were awesome today, and we'll do this again next week. All right. Absolutely. Happy Thanksgiving. All right. Kyle Keck, brought to you by 320 20 solar. Now, something else I did when I started doing this show was that I found a sponsor that really makes me feel better. And Lynn Knowles is a lady that has a product that it's a drink and it's got ketones in it. And I take this drink a couple of times a day and it's made a difference. I feel so much better. I'm in my mid 60s and I feel good. I've lost some weight. And now with the holidays coming up and some incredible meals coming out, here's a way that might be able to help you with those great meals. Here's Lynn Knowles.
Well, Lynn, the holidays are here, and I have to be honest with you. Ketones have become a part of my life. I feel better. I have dropped some weight, but the holidays are here. That means what can ketones do, with the turkey and the dressing and the mashed potatoes and the pies and the desserts? Can ketones be a big help right now?
Absolutely, they can. They're going to help you celebrate mindfully. And I'll tell you that I love everything that you just mentioned. I have my Thanksgiving dinner like everyone else. But what happens, Al, is that when you're drinking ketones, your brain's being fueled. And when your brain's being fueled with its superior fuel source, you don't have these cravings and you're not continually overeating. We're satiated. There's a hormone called ghrelin. Let's not get too sciencey, but this actually allows that to work. And we're just not hungry for all of the things that we normally do. So the one plate of food is enough. We're going to be happy with that. We're not going to go back for thirds, fourths, and fifths. But I do love the fact that, yes, this absolutely will help everyone. And let's talk about some ugly statistics, if you will. Al, did you know that most people have gained 20 pounds over COVID?
Incredible. Yeah.
How about the ugly statistic that most people are getting ready to gain another 15 to 20 over the holidays, right?
Oh, my goodness.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is something that will crush cravings. It's going to help people not gain that extra weight. And then once we get through the holidays and we enjoy our holidays mindfully, we can continue drinking ketones and we're going to work on that COVID-20.
It's, again, a refreshing drink. I love it. It's powder in water. Shake it up. Talk about the best way to use this.
Sure. Well, you said it. It's that simple. Really, it's a little sachet packet. You're going to pour it or pull it open, pour it into some ice and water, shake it up for about 5 seconds, and then you're going to drink it over a 30-minute period. You're going to drink it in the morning, maybe after breakfast, before lunch, and then you're going to drink it again for a second serving sometime before dinner. And it's going to keep you fueled and in ketosis all day long.
If someone wants to learn more about this, what do they need to do?
Well, Al, there's a lot of things that they could do, but I highly suggest they reach out to me. I've been doing this for over 2.5 years, and I've helped over 1,000 people have success with this. You're one, Al. You're looking amazing. I know you mentioned you've lost a few pounds, but I'm going to tell you what it's doing from the inside out. You look 10 years younger for sure, but reach out to me. And, the best way to do it is, hey, I do this personally. Send me a text. Give me a call, 727-641-4284. I'm here locally in the Tampa Bay area. I'm actually in Dunedin. I'll be happy to meet up with you, shake up one of those little bad boys, as we call it, and let you taste it.
Lynn Knowles, have a wonderful holiday, and thanks for joining us.
You too, Al. Have a great Thanksgiving. Be mindful.
Now, I close every show with the story from my 40 years of covering sports around the country. And one of my favorite things to cover, quite honestly, is high school sports. And I've had the pleasure of covering some of the best athletes in the world when they competed in high school. Incredible athletes in Tampa, San Diego, Portland, Oregon, Spokane, Washington. So players like Ray Lewis and Tino Martinez, Gary Sheffield here in the Tampa Bay area. In San Diego, it was John Lynch, Marcus Allen, Junior Seau, David Wells. And in Spokane, my very first story as an intern, and for some of you, you may have heard this story. Covering some of the biggest names around in my career. It all started in Spokane. And my very first story was about the North Central High School football team. They were the team that at the beginning of the high school football season was considered to be the team to beat in the city. And their starting quarterback, and he ended up being the all-city quarterback, was a guy by the name of Ryne Sandberg, who went on to become a Hall of Fame baseball player with the Chicago Cubs. Now, the second team all-city quarterback was Mark Rippon. Mark Rippon went on to play in a Super Bowl with Washington, and I believe was a Super Bowl MVP and had just a very good NFL career. And they were both very good high school basketball players and were also all-city and all-league in basketball. And they were beating on a skinny little scrawny freshman from Gonzaga Prep by the name of John Stockton. So my first year in television covering sports and covering high school sports, I had a baseball Hall of Famer, a Super Bowl MVP, and I had a dream teamer. So Ryne Sandberg, Mark Rippon, and of course, John Stockton. That is a way to start off a career. All right, I want to thank Bubba the Love Sponge. I want to thank Cedric Robinson and, of course, the Deck Bar and Grill, 320 Solar, Kyle Keck, Megan Keck, who does so much behind the scenes to make this work, Peter Blake, who's back in the studio at the palatial Peter Blake Studios. He always does a great job for me. Peter, thank you so very much. But most of all, I want to thank you. Thank you for joining us. I'm Al Keck. We will see you next week. Stay safe, stay healthy, have a wonderful holiday. And here's praying that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers finally get their act together and get a victory over the defending Super Bowl champion, Kansas City Chiefs. So long, everybody.
Power bill through the roof? At 320 Solar, that power bill will be no more. In fact, about 90% of our customers report lower solar payments than with electricity. That's more power in your pocket. 320 Solar. Power up.